I'm a 25-year-old woman with no life, no real sense of direction. I feel so lost. And I'm making this video because I feel like there's many people who can resonate with me or possibly learn from me. I think my lashes are a visual representation of what my life is right now, like hanging, literally. I have some advice at the end for all my young girls and women in their 20s that are trying to navigate this very, very difficult life that we find ourselves in, and the whole feeling lost, and what I've done to sometimes regain my balance, even though right now I'm feeling very unbalanced. I'm going to start with a little bit of my story. I've always loved speaking. I've always loved the arts. I've always been a very expressive person. And for that reason, my parents had kind of pushed me into law. Obviously, we all know African parents, they really do believe that lawyers, accountants, certain professions, certain white-collar professions are more safe options for you to go into, right? And it's for very good reasons. Like, people from the first world and people that are not immigrants don't understand the fact that there is no security when you live in a third world country, and I understand their sentiment. Over here, we don't really have governments to protect us. We don't have systems to protect us. We don't have, you know, benefits. We don't have none of that. So when our parents are very concerned and they're trying to push a certain path on us, it's because they're trying to give us what they can. They're trying to give us a life that is somewhat secure in the madness and insanity that we live in. Over here, we don't have the luxury of having governments that provide cushion systems for us. We don't have free healthcare. We don't have free anything. Everything, nothing works, right? So when they were trying to push me into law and whatnot, I didn't take offense from it. I honestly, at the time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I just said, you know what, whatever. And I know they had the best interest for me. And I've always been a very indecisive person. Like, I've always been extremely indecisive, right? So I was like, you know what, there's no harm that could come from this. Let me just go ahead, do it, see what comes out of it. And for a long time, my whole life was about law. Primary school to secondary school to A-levels to university, I never knew that I'll be interested in other things because I've always been told I would be a good lawyer, which I am. And I didn't bother exploring other parts of my life and other possibilities for things that I could be or become. That's part of why I feel so lost right now, because I feel like I haven't had a depth or wealth of experience in other things that I might be interested in, and I don't even know what the other things I might be interested in are, because from primary school, secondary school, I've always kind of tailored my subjects to being a, you know, in the arts, a legal person. Every single thing I did was based on that. But then I started noticing whilst I was in A-levels that, hold on, I do like psychology, right? I really like psychology. I like understanding how people think. I like understanding people. That's why I'm so expressive, because it's a part of me wanting to connect with people and wanting people to connect with me. And then I also started understanding and seeing that I loved art, right? But then these are just things I didn't really pay attention to. I was just like, you're gonna be a lawyer. You're gonna be a freaking lawyer, a barrister. You're gonna go to court, so it doesn't matter that you like these things, whatever. Especially again when you come from a third world country or you have immigrant parents, where you don't really have that much of an option, where you can't just quit your job because you don't feel like it, where you can't just say, oh, you know what, I want to change my career path right now, because we just don't have the luxury of doing that. We don't. And I went into university to become the perfect law student. Every single thing I did was about law, and the more I did the law, the more I was feeling empty. I felt like, obviously it's a general feeling for everything, you can never feel like you know something so well, but I just felt like so far I've given about 6 years of my life to this thing and I still don't feel such a strong connection to it. How many more years do I need to give to it? And I remembered being in uni and just loving the jurisprudence side of law, which is the philosophical part of law. For someone who is so confused right now, I've literally had everything cut out for me. I've always had my next step planned for me. I'm a first daughter in an African household, and I don't know if many people can relate, but I've always been agreeable. All my life I have been an agreeable daughter. I was never the one to cause problems. I was never the one to cause issues, because I had to be a good model for my younger siblings, and my parents were generally just stricter on me or stricter with me, which is something a lot of first daughters or first children can relate to. So I just didn't have the liberty of that much choice. I didn't even know that I had a choice. It's until recently that I started realizing that I have a choice. I remember when I was in my second year of uni, I spoke to one of my aunties who lives in the UK. I remember her and her husband sitting me down, having a talk with me and telling me, I know you love Nigeria and Nigeria is great and you want to be a great patriot or patriot, whatever, however it's pronounced. Because my parents had sold the idea of, you know what, just go to school and come back to Nigeria. You don't have any business in a white man's land. Like, just go to school and come back to Nigeria. And they sold that to me so hard and I bought into it so well. I bought into the potential and the opportunities Nigeria has, which it does, right? But there's a big truth about coming back to Nigeria that nobody tells you, which I'm going to be talking about in another video. Anyways, my aunt and my uncle at the time, I remember them sitting me down and then they were like, Ima, I know you want to go back to Nigeria, but I advise you get some work experience here in the UK whilst you can. My parents had told me, once you're done with your education, which we so gracefully paid for you, which I'm so grateful for, your next step is to come back, do your NYSC and do your law school. I came back to Nigeria, according again to my parents' plan, go and do your law school. Now, I went to do my law school, I did my bar one, and COVID hit. Guys, I feel like I'm one of the people, besides people who lost family members, I think I and people who were in very transitionary phases of their life suffered the second most from COVID. Apart from people who actually fell sick and died, we were the next people who suffered the most from COVID. Because if you had a life, it means your life was just put on hold. But if you didn't have a life, if you were literally in a place where you were trying to move or trying to make a decision from one point to another, now you were even more stuck than ever. I was supposed to start my law school. I started and boom, COVID hit. I'm here, I don't even want to be in this freaking place. I don't even know where I want to be in the first place, but I'm here in this law school, Nigerian law school. We're not going to talk about that for now. We were basically at home for 2 years doing nothing. The only good that came out of COVID was obviously family time and the fact that I started my YouTube channel. And I just started content creating in general, although at the latter end of it, like I started at the end of it. But you don't understand how hard it is to be in a position where you don't even know what the next step of your life is, and then you stop and everything stops. And then after 2 years, everybody starts again and they're like, yeah, let's continue like nothing happened. And I came out of COVID a 22-year-old with basically no work experience. I mean, I have work experience, but I mean, I haven't worked somewhere for like 5 years. I haven't worked somewhere for 2 years. And it started to affect my mental health a lot. I started to feel less confident in myself. I started to feel like I lacked substance. And I'm like, I've been pursuing this law for so long right now, and I still feel like I lack substance. I've given it 6 to 8 years of my life. How many more years of my life do I need to give to it to be able to grasp it a bit more, to be able to feel more comfortable and confident in it? And honestly, that should have been my sign to just say, this is not for me. But again, I didn't know what else I wanted to do. So I just stuck with it, right? Because I had never really given myself the opportunity to chase or pursue anything else or to think about anything else. After law school was finished, I was feeling even more strongly than ever that I didn't want to do this law thing, but I didn't know what else I wanted to do. Content creator, that was not even in the picture of things for me. Like, yeah, I'll have a cute YouTube, but like to like not be a lawyer was like, what? After all the money my parents have spent on me to like go to school abroad from Nigeria, train me this far. When I finished law school, it was now time for NYSC. If you're not from Nigeria, you might not be familiar with NYSC. NYSC is the National Youth Service Corps. Basically, it's a non-military compulsory service every Nigerian must do before they're 30 for you to be taken seriously in the country. Like, for example, you can't even be given ministerial positions and whatnot without an NYSC certificate. So I'm like, okay, you know what, let me use this NYSC opportunity to actually get experience. I was actually very eager for the NYSC. I wanted to use this opportunity to really work and get experience. I want to go and see what this law stuff is about. I want to get real tangible experience, because during law school, we're supposed to do an externship, I forgot to mention, which is where after you're done with your exams or before your exams, you're going to be sent attached to a court and to a private chambers to work there and get real tangible experience and apply the things you've learned in law school. I'm so sorry. It's so ghetto. Every time you want to film, that's when everybody decides they want to start making noise outside. Oh yeah, because of COVID, we didn't get to do externship. So I went to a law firm where I encountered a very nasty lady who was my boss, and that made the experience terrible for me. I also got legal experience, of which I wasn't too keen on, if I'm being very honest. I don't mind doing contracts. I don't mind signing contracts. I don't mind preparing contracts. I don't mind preparing documents, but I feel like there's more for me in life. And I was very glad I did that, because that was when I started to really strongly feel like there might be something else for me in life. I started considering, okay, I don't even have to go into the traditional type of law. I can be an IP lawyer, entertainment lawyer, something a little bit more fun, okay? Because this is all too dreadfully boring for me. I left there 6 months in because the bullying was getting intense, which I will talk about working in Nigeria as a young fine lady, guys. Anyways, I left there and I moved to a government organization where I worked, and I also saw that it was not for me. It was not for me. I just felt like I wasn't applying myself enough. Like, and even if you're doing work, you don't get to apply your knowledge a lot, because there's just so many systems in place and so much bureaucracy and not much room for growth. Anyways, I finished my NYSC. Thanks be to Jah in the Most High. I finished my NYSC, and that was last year in November. And I started taking my content creation a little bit more seriously. I opened a TikTok, and I started, and it was doing well. And I was like, wow. Because YouTube had been so hard for me to grow on, and I didn't want to give up. My sister said, you know, why don't you try TikTok? It's easy to grow on TikTok. See it out, test it out, and you know, you can start going into YouTube. I remember another big challenge I had with my YouTube, which I spoke about, was my phone and space, right? Which I will talk about if I was going to start a YouTube in 2024, what I would do differently. But basically, I was struggling with YouTube. Like, I was struggling. Okay, I was literally struggling, and I decided to try something else, which I normally don't do, because again, I've been so sheltered and so molded into being one type of person. My life had just been in one straight path, that I was always really scared of trying new things, although that was at heart my personality. So imagine the level of suppression I've been dealing with my whole life. Anyways, I spoke to my mom, and she's always been very supportive, and she's been like, you know what, in life you have to lay your cards on the ground, on the table, and say, do a SWOT analysis of every single one of them, because there are always several different paths you can take in life. I don't believe anybody has to live a singular version of life. There's several different paths you can take. What will be best for you to take will depend on your circumstances and your ability at the time. So I started taking content seriously, and I started getting paid for it, and I was like, what? I didn't even know you could get paid from this thing. Seriously. I remember I got my first 300,000 naira for making a TikTok video, and I was like, what, 20,000-30,000 followers? And I was like, huh? So I started to take it a bit more seriously. At the time, again, you always learn some of these things with time. I've also come to a point where I'm okay with not knowing what I'm doing, but I was so consumed with not knowing what I was doing that it wasn't allowing me to be productive. Anyways, point is, 6 months after I started taking my content a little bit more seriously, my parents are like, bam, a job. You have to get a job. And in July of this year, I got a job. And I've never been more unhappy in my whole life. I've never been more dissatisfied in my whole life, and I've never been more lost in my whole life. Everybody keeps telling me, oh, there's job security, but personally, I remember watching a video from one guy, I'll find him, and he said one thing he admires about this generation is having the courage to chase your dreams. We're only going to be active in our lives for, let's say, the first 60 years of our life. I've already done 25. I have another 35 years left, and I don't imagine myself spending that 30 years in one of these organizations. I just don't see it. That doesn't mean that people who have done it are less, but it just means that I have bigger things I think I can chase with my life. But I'm stuck here because I don't want to disappoint my parents, and I'm stuck here at a job that barely covers my bills. If I'm being very honest, I would not be able to survive if my parents were not supporting me, if I didn't live at home, if I had to go and live on my own and rent a place. I don't think I've ever lived a life where and I'm not saying this to boast, guys, I'm just trying to be very honest. I've never lived a life where I've had to manage, and I'm having to manage now, and I'm so confused. And I'm managing for what? For a place I don't feel fulfilled, for a place I don't see much growth in. The worst part for me is I'm not able, because obviously it's an 8 to 4 every day, I'm not able to pursue other interests. Round about the time I started this job was literally a temptation. Around about the time I started this job, I had also just started my fashion brand, which is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I'm now more lost than ever, but I think I know what I need to do. And I just have some advice for any young person who is feeling very lost right now. Let me open my book because I don't remember. Ugh. The first piece of advice I would give is it's very normal, and I've come to understand that it's very normal to feel this way. If you think about it, at what time were you supposed to have it all figured out? I remember when I was like 15, I thought I'll have it all figured out by 25, which is so dumb because I just finished uni like 3 years ago. Was I supposed to make all my millions in 3 years? Sure, it will happen for some people, but for the majority of us, it's not going to happen that way. You're not going to hit it big at 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, it's not going to happen for many people. It will happen for some people, but it's not going to happen for many people. And you need to get comfortable with feeling lost. And until I started getting comfortable with feeling lost and understand that it's just a process, I wasn't able to move forward, right? I wasn't able to take steps because I was so afraid of being lost, even though I was already lost. And that just goes to say, if you're not sure what to do with your life, stay in school. Don't quit school, because education is something nobody can take away from you, right? And knowledge is something nobody can take away from you. I do not regret pursuing my law degree because I didn't know what else to pursue at the time. I hadn't thought about anything else for myself, right? So I don't regret it because it's a very good degree that has taught me so many skills in life that I can take on and that cannot be taken away from me regardless. So if you're not so sure what you want to do in life, stay in school. You're going to learn so much from education. But then at the same time, advice number 2 is education is not the beginning and end of your life. A degree is not the beginning and end of your life. What you study in school is not the beginning and end of your life. You might study medicine and end up being a performer. The point is, even now that you're lost, try to take as much knowledge from it as you can, because those are things nobody can take away from you that will be helpful to you in the future. And whilst we're shaping the rest of our lives and we're not really sure how, I think for me, the most important thing is getting up every day and trying. Wake up every day and try. Stop spending so much time, which is at a point I was depressed. I was spending so much time thinking about how much COVID had taken away from me, how I've been thrown into this situation where I'm literally a full adult right now and I don't have any real experience. I don't have this, and I felt so inadequate, and I spent so much time thinking about it instead of spending that time looking for solutions. Stop thinking about what opportunities people have that you didn't have, because it's not going to get you that opportunity. The only thing that's going to help you in life is you waking up and trying every day. You're never going to know what the future holds. You're never going to know where you would end up. The most important thing is making sure that you are focused and determined at whatever it is you have set your mind to do. If that be school right now, if you've decided you don't want to be in school, you want to pursue something else, you are focused and determined at that. I don't support people wanting to drop out of school and they don't know what they want to do. No. Especially if you are an immigrant or you come from the third world. Who do you think you are? You're not a whitey or whitey. By the way, that's a Nollywood song, if you know what I'm talking about. My point is, there's certain hindrances you already have being a certain type of person. If you're black, if you're an immigrant, if you're a woman. And then also, don't focus on all the times it has not worked for you. There must have been at least one time in the year that something has worked for you. Also remember them, because they are also what will keep you going in these times when you're lost. I'm giving advice not as someone that knows what she's going to do. but as someone who is coming to terms with the fact that it's okay not knowing. It's okay because it's part of the journey. Don't be so hyper fixated on the fact that it's not working and the fact that it hasn't worked, because you start to build negative cycles, and that's what I was doing, and that's how I felt depressed. Now, am I lost? Yes. Am I depressed? No. Was I depressed before? Yeah. But am I depressed? No, not anymore. Now, do I know what I'm going to do? Not really, because I also think about the times that it has worked. And my mom told me, remember, this same COVID that you hated so much, that took so much from you, that threw you in this mess, was when you started your YouTube journey that you were supposed to start 5 years before and didn't have the liver or the courage or whatever to start. And that is one good thing that came out of COVID for me. And I've decided to focus on that instead of remembering all the negative things that happened, because they do nothing for me. And I'm not saying be blindly positive, but be blindly optimistic that your life will turn out good so long as you do wake up and show up for yourself every day. Another piece of advice I would give is, as you're in your 20s, when you're young, try as many things as you possibly can. Okay? Although I had my life cut out for me, because I've always been an adventurous person and deep down I've always loved trying things, I kind of did, you know. I made friends with people who were not in any way similar to me. Most of my friends in A-levels and in uni were white, Hispanic, Asians. I wanted to learn about them. It's not that I didn't make friends with Nigerians on purpose. I'm just saying that I purposely put myself out there to meet a different group of people. I'm always putting myself out there to learn more, and that might be partially because I love learning about people and I love connecting with people, but I think that really helped me a lot in terms of allowing me to try something else, allowing me to start my YouTube channel, and I don't give enough credit to that. And maybe this was the grand scheme of my life for me. Maybe if I had gone and pursued psychology, I might have been so satisfied I would never have started a YouTube channel, right? My point is, we all never know. Even people you think have it figured out don't. Some of us are just bold enough to admit it. Show up for yourself every day and be okay. Let's normalize, you know, I'm lost right now. I don't know what to do, but I'm gonna show up for myself regardless. That's the difference for me. Showing up for yourself. And you know, I am taking steps to make sure that 2024 will be different, and I'll be able to speak on those things when certain things have happened. But for now, it doesn't make much sense for me to speak on them. But I love you very much, besties, and to everyone watching this video, you are good enough. You are good enough at something. I promise you. I promise you. Every single one of us is born with something, and you're not going to find that thing out if you don't try different things, if you don't explore different things, talk to different people. You're never going to know. Your life might be in shambles right now. Now you might not know what's going on, but just know that it's normal, and you're not the only one going through that. And I want you to not ever give up on yourself. That's the most important thing. That was an emotional one. I'm surprised I didn't cry. Anyways, I have to go and get ready for lunch with my family right now, because everybody's like, yeah, get ready. So I'll speak to you besties in my next video. I love you guys so much. Take care, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be showing up more. I'm doing more chit chat content. So yeah, till next time, love you. Bye bye. Bye.